we've labeled deal sourcing as deal sourcing, but you're just an estate agent. That's what you are. If you're good with people and understand different types of people and open to different cultures and different ways of thinking, then you will be able to broker a lot of deals. I listen to people and try and understand them. They'll see that I'm actually genuinely trying to build a relationship and trying to help. I'm able to do deals that way. Not just being a messenger. You've got to manage the information and tailor it towards who you're delivering the information to. Everyone thinks they're an expert now and they just do YouTube videos and things like that and create a YouTube, which is fine. The consumer is looking at the YouTube videos and going, that sounds easy, I want to do that. But it's not as straightforward as that. I'm not a massive believer in luck. We can't neglect the fact that I was trying to get into the industry for 2 years before. So we didn't talk about that bit.
Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Property People. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Mr. Nathan King. How are you today, Nathan?
Very, very well. Thanks for having me, Saam. Yeah, good to be here.
Good. Because Nathan, just a brief introduction. You're a senior property consultant at Whozoo, effectively a commercial and land property agent, acquiring and disposing development sites in London and the Southeast. Aside from the conventional, you're successfully transacting on sites using various different types of strategies, from option agreements, subject to planning, delayed completions, which is something I think a lot of people are quite curious about and want to do more of because it's not the kind of everyday bread and butter stuff. And you're regularly producing kind of site reports accurately to advise vendors and buyers and developers and investors. And you've also got a knack of providing off-market opportunities to clients, which I think that's like the holy grail is like, how do we get a piece of that action? I know that that's a big attraction for a lot of people. But before we get into all of that, what I always like to know and where I like to start is, who was Nathan King at school?
At school? Interesting.
Yeah. So, like, what kind of person were you? Were you super academic? Were you one of the jocks and more athletic type? Were you a teacher's pet? Were you expelled because you were an absolute rebel without a cause?
Interesting. I see why you asked that question. From my perspective, I was the football guy at school. So from year 6 primary school to year 11, I was in academies. So I was 4 years at Fulham, and then I was 2 years at QPR. Okay. So automatically you become the guy that plays football, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, he plays for a professional club. How do you do that sort of thing? So throughout my school years, I was at professional clubs playing football. And then academically, I was pretty good. I did well at my GCSEs, did A-levels as well, and I did well at A-level. Kind of all irrelevant now, don't really talk about it, but I did well at the time. Should post my grades really or something, but but football was my main focus. That's all I did. Football, basically.
And football, there's not many people that make it to like the dizzy heights of the Premier League and that sort of thing. Some people make it semi-pro. Do you still play football?
I play every now and then. I stopped playing semi-pro a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Why?
Playing semi-pro now is like another job. And with my, what I do and how much commitment you need to put in, I just didn't have the time to have another job. So like they want you to be training, but you need to be in the gym every single day. And just with my lifestyle, it just didn't work. Maybe at another point I might look into it again. Running out of time now, but yeah, I just thought no, it's not for me. And the club I was at wasn't that great as well, so I thought.
We won't mention what their name is, but if they see this.
Won't mention it. Maybe you don't want to go back. But yeah, at the time, they just weren't. The setup wasn't great.
So that's fair enough. I mean, there's an element of responsibility. You're getting paid for it. So if you're semi-pro, what about things like Sunday League though?
So at the moment, my friend owns a football club. They're a league below semi-pro, and their project was to try and become semi-pro. So this season, I joined them and just play every now and then with them.
What position do you play?
I'm playing striker there.
How many goals did you score last season?
What? I didn't play last season. This season,
Oh, right, yeah.
I scored like 3 goals, 4 goals.
Very
I haven't
good.
played that much. Yeah.
Very good. And
Yeah,
which
yeah.
football team do you support?
Arsenal,
Oh, they're going to win the league.
hopefully. Hopefully.
Don't get-
Let's not talk about it too much before everything changes.
All right, so that's
good.
good. I mean, look, I think sports, in my opinion, from my experience, I'm also a football fan. Decent at football, never made it to those dizzy heights. So, do you find that sports helps you in business? Do you find that sports
100%.
helps you from a team element aspect?
Yeah, sports has taught me how to operate in a team. It required me to think about it first, though. Like, think about how does my experience in a professional environment playing football translate to my work environment? So I'll use a lot of analogies about my work with football, a lot.
I do the same.
Yeah. Like I can say, for example, I was saying to someone last night, one of my colleagues, he's more like a bulldozer centre mid sort of person who just runs around. He's not got much technique, but that's what he does. And that was a good way of describing him. The person was like, I get it now. So I think everything that I've learned from football has definitely translated to my business life. For example, that's where I first learned how to do a handshake properly. They will teach you that. So they'll be like, when you meet the managers, shake their hand, but make sure you do it firmly, look them in the eye. I learned that at football. I didn't learn that anywhere else.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of lessons that I may take for granted that I learned playing football that has definitely translated into my business.
So like discipline stuff,
100%.
interaction,
Being on time, how to be on time, that sort of stuff.
personal management, personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Sometimes I'm in an environment where not everybody actually watches football or is a sports person.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of bringing these analogies. I'm thinking, okay, that probably is not going to land very well, but
Yeah.
it's the only way that I can express kind of exactly what I'm trying to say
True.
from your own experience. So
Cool.
with the progression of QPR and Fulham, why did that stop, and what was the next steps from there?
So when I left QPR, I left a little bit late. That was the age where I needed to get a scholarship. And I left when a lot of clubs had filled their quota.
What's that, like 16, 18?
16. So I started looking. I should have left earlier. That was one of my big mistakes because I had 3 clubs that were after me at the time, but I stayed because I wanted to be at QPR, and there were a few leagues down, and QPR at the time was in the Premier League and stuff like that. So I went on a couple trials, didn't get in, and then I just went to play semi-pro, but at quite a high level. So at the age of 16, I was playing men's football straight away.
Sure.
And then I ended up playing for Woking and did my A-levels at Woking. So I started playing full-time there. They offered me a contract after to continue, but it was like more studies and I get paid a little bit and then try and get in the first team. But I didn't want to take that gamble for another year there. So what I did is I went to university and said, look, I'd rather just play semi-pro and do that well. Went to university, focused on... At that point, I didn't want to pursue football anymore. I was happy just having a semi-pro career and then focusing on business. So I spent my first year at university trying to work out what I wanted to be within business. And then my second year, that's when I found property. And then that's when I started to drift away a little bit more from football. Still did well, like I played... for England, represented England for our university futsal team and stuff like that. So still did a few bits and played for a few clubs and stuff like that. But yeah, the passion was to do with property when I was in second year uni, and then that's where I've started to focus on it a bit more.
So university, what were you studying?
Business and management.
Business and management.
Yeah, very broad.
And that was in working. Yeah, I mean, I did some things very similar to that, business administration. So. Studying, playing football, the property thing though. Why? What was it that lit the fire under property? Why not something like, I don't know, crypto probably wasn't around then, but
I know.
you know, selling stock shares, Forex or Windows or.
I did try the stock exchange. I used some of my student finance to invest in some poorly calculated investments, and they didn't go too well. But I don't know what it was. I just wanted to get into property somehow. So I read a few books, and I always thought that I wanted to have a real estate portfolio. And then after watching Homes Under the Hammer, that really started to spark more of an interest. And then I had a mentor who said, "Oh, if you were to quit your current jobs," because at the time I was managing a school after school hours, doing like their Zumba classes and stuff, just managing it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I was also a football coach at a professional club, which was fun and obviously transferable skills, etc.
Yeah.
And he said, and I was getting paid quite well at university. I was earning quite a bit of money considering where I was. I think I was on like £400 or something like that a month, or 500.
Compared to most of the students where they're not making anything
Yeah.
or working part-time jobs in minimum wage and stuff.
Yeah, like minimum wage at that time was I think £7 an hour. I was on like £10.50, so it was like, oh, I'm smashing it.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
absolutely.
But I had a mentor. The mentor was an accountant, but he asked me the right questions, and that's why it's important you speak to the right people. He asked me the right questions. What do you want to do? And I said, I want to do property. He said, if you were to be offered a job, would you take it? And I said, yeah. So he said, go for it. And then the next day, I applied for as many part-time roles as I could find, and only one responded. And then got the job, and then Bob's your uncle, and the rest is history. Yeah.
So the mentor, very quickly though, was this like coincidental that you bumped into this person, or was it planned? Was it part of the football program that when after you finished?
It was at university. At university, they had a program. I would actively keep an eye out for different programs that were there. I saw a program, and that program basically provided you a mentor to give you a bit more guidance. That person worked for a big corporate, and then from there they also had like a work experience as well for a couple of weeks during the summer that you apply for. So it's all things that I had to apply for and pitch myself, and yeah, that's how I got it.
Do you still speak with that mentor?
No, I should touch base with him. I should. Yeah.
Seems like it helped.
That one conversation definitely did help.
Good.
It definitely did help.
So fast forward a little bit to where we are today as well, and you've effectively been a founding member of a new business, which has grown. We've worked together actually,
Yes, we've done a deal.
under its previous guise.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about that, but more importantly, tell me about what it feels like to be part of a founding member of a business that seems to be flourishing as well as it's doing right now.
Yeah, I think, so just to give a bit of background, so the company was previously called City and Counties Commercial. That's what we started talking about and things like that. And when I joined the company, it was at the very beginning of the company, in a sense of we didn't have any sites on our website. We didn't have any new leads. We were going out finding those leads. So I would literally get in my car every Wednesday and look for 100 sites, literally choose a location. So I'll be let's go to Stratford today.
Yeah.
Choose 100 and look for 100 sites. So just driving around back roads, trying to find sites, writing down the addresses, and then trying to find the contact numbers of the people that own the sites. So it was really old school graft, knocking on doors, had set targets for that as well. And the idea was to try and find at least 350 sites a month, and then try and win leads and try and win instructions. So that's where it started. And then post-COVID, that's when things started to really progress, in a sense of we did a few deals. We started to make more noise in the market. And we got to a point where the team grew. I was managing people. And yeah, things really started to scale. But we came to a bit of a crossroads where Tom, who is the founder and the director of the business, he had a vision, which was to create a commercial agency which had a lot of partnerships. So working with finance people, like how we've worked together and stuff like that. But also the agents were self-employed and had their own business within a business. And we discussed it in length, and we used to have strategy meetings every week and things like that. But we came to a point where I was ready for it, in a sense of I was ready to take the plunge and not work for anyone anymore. I wanted to have my own independent business, and therefore we came to a point where he put that plan into action. So from 2021, I went self-employed. We didn't tell anyone. It was just a thing where I was doing it and I was demonstrating the model. I was meant to be the case study for it. And then from there, I had a very, very good year last year. And consequently, following on from that, Tom stepped away from agency, hasn't done agency for a while, came back only recently, and he just focused on the business development, making sure we have the systems in place and everything like that. And then now we're at a place where we've rebranded to be called Whozoo from January. And yeah, very, very proud to be involved in the process and how things have progressed.
Yeah, no, it is a fascinating story. And I mean, is it too soon? Because you've kind of been in the eye of the storm throughout this whole process. Have you been able to kind of think about the journey? Because it's all happened quite quickly, and it's quite like almost a mushroom. And it's all really well put together. I mean, cities and counties are, I think, the reason why it did so well is because it was just really well branded. The service and everything was always professional, and I think in the commercial space, head and shoulders above what you'd average, across the average kind of agent. Kind of reminds me of the commercial space compared to residential sales, lettings. Reminds me of 20, 30 years ago where residential agents weren't that sophisticated for the most part, many of them. You get a few that were kind of good, but they just weren't there quite where they are today, where you've got the Foxtons of the world and your Marsh and Parsons and this and the other. So now you guys have really kind of taken that brand and concept and professionalism and levels of service into the commercial space, and had some great success. So, for you, what? And it's interesting that you told me about your being the case study, wanting to start your own business. The term entrepreneur. Have you come across that term?
I have, and that's what it is. Yeah.
So yeah, what I mean, what does that mean to what do you understand about the term entrepreneur?
Entrepreneur, from my understanding, is basically an entrepreneur within a business. So it's a business within a business, or you set up a segment within a business which is yours that you are running, and you take a share from. So that's my understanding of it.
And what would you say are the pros and cons? Because obviously you've been on both sides of it right now. And you're building your own brand, you're building your own, it's within another business as well, working very, very closely alongside the director of that business.
Yes.
And you've got a kind of intertwined relationship, and his success is your success and vice versa. What are the pros and cons that you found that you've kind of analyzed and gone through on that journey? Where you're
I think with how it's set up, I think the first point of call is you've got to have a relationship with the person who was the original entrepreneur. So myself and Tom, we have a very good relationship. We have a very good understanding. We know how each other work. We've been through a lot together as well. So we've been through tough seasons together, and we've been through high seasons together. So we know each other now. Yeah. From a business sense. And then also outside of that, we spent a lot of time personally together as well. So I think that's the start and the foundation of being an entrepreneur. I would say the pros of being an entrepreneur is the startup is a little bit easier because there is a foundation to work off. So I believe I'm capable of setting up my own separate business where I say, Tom, thank you. Whozoo, thank you. I'm going to go and do my own thing. I could do that. I have enough clients. I have enough people that would use my services outside of Whozoo. But I believe with Whozoo, they provide a service provision that benefits me to a point where I don't have to spend money on Rightmove, or Zoopla or any other platform. I'm able to leverage a brand which someone else has invested in. And those investments and those systems that they have in place would take me 10 years to replicate.
Sure.
So why would I try and replicate that? I could fast forward my progression very, very quickly via just being involved in something that's already got a setup, which I helped to set up anyway.
From your point of view, exactly. The kind of the added cream on the top is that, I've been there from the very, very beginning and helped this whole business. Whereas somebody else could come into an existing business many, many years later and then create its own division or its own entity within that. And from, it's self-employed, right? So you're self-employed. What are the downsides? What is it that, you might lose sleep at night?
I haven't lost sleep yet for business at the moment.
What are you losing sleep for at the minute?
I've got a newborn, a baby boy. Thank you. So that's the reason I'm losing sleep. It's not to do with business at the moment. What I would say is, it depends on who you are. I thought it was a natural progression. I'm always considered myself as a business person. So I've only worked for small companies because I like to get stuck in with the business side of things. Hence why I was involved. I volunteered to be involved in the strategy meetings. It wasn't, you need to be involved. This is part of your salary job. No, I said, look, I want to be involved. I like that side of things. So from my perspective, I didn't see there was any risk or any downside. It was business as usual, but I'm my own business. I think the only thing, because you're not getting a salary, you could get nervous about where your next paycheck's coming from. So having a bit of savings helps, because if you don't do certain deals, or deals are taking a little bit longer than you expect, then you might have to just dip into your own pocket a little bit. But yeah, I think that's the only thing that someone would worry about. And if you're worried about that, then it's probably not for you, because more risk, more reward. So if you don't want to take those sort of risks, then it's probably best that you just stick to salaried employment.
So, and so it is more risk, more reward. So you proportionately are actually getting, for the same number of deals you would do on a salary basis, employed basis, you're actually getting more money out of doing it. 100%. However, the downside is that if things don't go well, you don't have that basic salary, that cushion, that kind of safety net to catch you if you fall.
Yeah, and also another thing is, imagine if I wanted to take a month off, then I won't get paid for that month. Or what if I hurt my leg or something like that? I've had colleagues that have hurt their leg and then they can't do anything. Or paternity leave, it's like, what is it? Like, when do you stop? Do you stop now? Do I stop later? I don't know. There's no set rules. You make up your own rules. So yeah, but I treat my business, being an entrepreneur, as a business, not as me being a self-employed person who's just has a job with it. It's still a job. Yeah. I treat it like a business, so I'm doubling down on my business basically.
And so when you're doing that, because again, most of the other employees have got leads and inquiries coming in, and then they're carrying out systems and processes that are asked of them. But when you're doing your own thing, you need to be thinking about lead generation. You need to be thinking about your division of time. You need to be thinking about how you can grow your network. You need to be thinking about a whole bunch of different things all 100%. At the same time, right? But that's also again why you get paid a little bit more, or a lot more, depending on how, like, however hard and fast you run, the bigger this can grow.
100%. And I think the main thing is, like, especially in this modern day and age, you want the flexibility to do these things and to be more adventurous, especially someone like myself.
Yeah.
I want to explore new things within the market, which I probably could do if I was an employee, but I'd rather do it my way, because I've got my own ideas and my own plans that I want to execute, and my own passions that I want to execute within the commercial and development market.
Would you say that do you count yourself as a lucky person?
Lucky? Oh.
The reason why I asked that is because you found this guy Tom, and you basically your worlds collided pretty much at the same time, and it's benefited both of you. Kind of, I can see the massive value that you've added on that side, and you're doing well. So he's obviously added to you. Do you think that luck is an important part of the success that you've had and the opportunity that you've got?
I'm not a massive believer in luck, personally. What I would say, though, is we can't neglect the fact that I was trying to get into the industry for 2 years before. So we didn't talk about that bit. So I spent 2 years trying to get into the industry, searching for jobs. I tried different things. I signed up with a similar sort of scheme before. I found the contract a few weeks ago when I was doing a clear out. I found a contract that I signed with some other lady that was from 2017. So there's loads of the background story we haven't spoken about, where I invested a lot of time trying to get into the commercial and development market and become a commercial agent, but I couldn't get in. Like, I literally couldn't get in because there was a lot of barriers to entry. So a lot of them wanted me to have a RICS accredited degree, which I didn't have. So I started looking at doing a master's, but I couldn't afford it. And then a lot of them wanted you to have property-related experience, but I didn't have enough experience yet, because either you have to have the degree or you have to have the experience. So then I just tried to do some deals myself, but I didn't know what I was doing. So I went through a bit of a war, and then when I found the job, because I knew what I was looking for, I called them 3 times, and I said, the first time I was like, is this for real? So what do you guys do? And they were like, yeah, it is for real. So I sent them my CV, and then I called them back and I said, yeah, I've just sent you my CV. I'm really, really keen. I want to see you, blah, blah, blah. So I wouldn't say that's luck, because we didn't talk about the 2 years before trying to get in. I set up a business to try and do deal sourcing. Like, there's a lot more that went into it. I remember seeing you at networking events. So, I was trying.
Yeah. No, it's good though, because I think it's people sometimes see the duck in the pond and they don't see the paddling underneath, and they think everything's kind of like, oh, look how beautiful it is, serene and everything. But there's actually a lot of work going on underneath, and I think that this is the reason why we do stuff like this, to hopefully share that. I was at a networking event last night. Actually, shameless plug, Brendan Quinn's event, Central Property Meet in London Bridge. Really, really good one.
I used to go to those.
Yeah, it's very good. I met this young guy. He's 20 years old. His name's Tom. Hopefully he's going to watch this as well. And I met him last time, and he came again this time. And he wants to be, he wants to do property sourcing. So I was like, okay, good. You need to get yourself your foot in the door some way, shape, or form. And I just happened to tell him my story, which was that on 2 occasions in my career, I've worked for free. One, right at the beginning, to become an estate agent, I did 3 months for free. That was the very, very start. I was kind of 18. And then more recently, over the last 5 years or so, I did some part-time stuff, which really benefited me as well, and grew to lots of other cool stuff that I'm doing now. So I just told him that, be open to doing that as well. Don't always be looking for the money. Anyway, so this time he came around and he did a 20-second pitch in front of everybody, and he told everybody, I'm willing to work for free for testimonials. And I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. But I spoke to him at the end, and he said, look, I'm kind of just want to work for free and source people deals. So I was like, okay, so fair enough, that's cool. But how are you going about it? Like, what conversation are you having with people? Are you asking them what deal do you want, what year?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't really know, unfortunately, because he's just not surrounded himself with other people that can give him a kind of like shed the light in the right direction, or point the finger in the right way. So I think he would benefit from working alongside other people that are actually
100%.
doing it. So I told him, like, speak to a commercial agent or speak to an auction house. Go and work for them, work for free maybe for them for a few months, do some internship or something, and then see if you can get a paid role from there. Would you advise, other people to do something similar?
I would say my journey's been a bit long, in a sense of, like, to get to this point has been a slog. Like, I've really, really worked hard to get to this point. And I remember being that 20-year-old going, what shall I do? The thing that I did, which I will advise a lot of people to do, because at the time, like, for example, I started off my career in rent-to-rent. At the time when I started in January 2015, no one was doing it. Everyone I'd have to explain it to, and they still didn't get it. And they're like, so what, you sublet? Like, it's just, it was a bit annoying. And now it's a buzzword and everyone knows who it is. And there's tons of courses and stuff like that. And what's happened is everyone thinks they're an expert now, and they just do YouTube videos and things like that and create a YouTube, which is fine. That's their prerogative. But what I would say is the consumer is looking at the YouTube videos and going, that sounds easy, I want to do that. But it's not as straightforward as that. So if anyone wants to be a deal sourcer, I started off being a deal source. Well, I started off doing property management with the rent-to-rent company. I discovered that I liked the lettings, but I didn't like the management.
Right.
So then I started.
Interesting.
I went to my first networking event, told people what I did, and they went, "Oh, could you find me rent-to-rents?" I'm like, "Yeah, I already do that for the portfolio." Yeah. So I found a couple rent-to-rents, got paid, and I got a rush, and I was like, "Yeah, I want to do this." The ultimate type of deal sourcer, in my opinion, is commercial property, because selling a rent-to-rent deal, I got paid £1,500 and I got paid £1,200. With a commercial deal, you can sell a plot of land for £10 million and get paid a 2% fee. Very big difference, right?
Totally.
So I wanted to go that way. I was like, yeah, that's where the money is. How do I do that one? But technically, we've labeled deal sourcing as deal sourcing, but you're just an estate agent. That's what you are.
Dun, 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 breaking news.
You're just in a stage.
Because he was telling me deal sourcing. I want to do deal sourcing. I'm like, basically, you want to be a commercial land agent or an auction house. That's what you want to do, really. It's just the deal sourcing to me is a way to sell education programs and outside of the because nobody wants a career of I don't want to be pigeonholed. So they're kind of the easy way out, the shortcut or something, and the deal sourcing sounds good. But I think deal sourcing, we need more good deal sourcers, more people to go out in there and find opportunities.
But the thing is, how would you learn? You won't know what a good deal is. So you're just going to be finding deals and punting them around and hoping, fingers crossed, it works. When I was doing the rent-to-rent deals, I knew rent-to-rent inside out. So when I was selling the deal on, I was using my knowledge to negotiate a very good deal for someone and breaking it down. And the two deals that I did, one of the deals that I did was someone that was very, very new to rent. So I was able to educate him a lot. And I had properties nearby and things like that. So I was able to actually help and provide a service. But going back to your guy who wants to be a deal sourcer and do it for free, why don't you just get a job, learn how to do it, and get paid? You can get paid to do it, but if you're an estate agent, they'll give you all the tools of you'll learn how to do a valuation.
Exactly.
You'll learn what the values are in a specific location. So that means you're going to be technically an expert within a location. You're going to see below market value deals before anyone else, because probates will come your way, and then you're going to have to give a valuation. Or someone's desperate to sell and they're in a situation, they're going to go to an estate agent and ask, "Oh, could you help? And do you know any investors within your books that will be interested in selling?" So either way, you're going to get paid a salary and commission for selling it. And it'll be pretty much the same sort of commission as if you were a deal sourcer anyway.
Exactly.
So why don't you just become an estate agent, do that for a year, and by the end of that year, you can make a decision whether you want to go off on your own and be a deal sourcer, or you want to progress things and maybe become a commercial agent, or maybe diversify. Or
land and new homes, or this, that, or overseas. So, I mean, the interesting thing was, the observation that I have anyway is that I think, especially in the tech age, especially 18 to 20, everybody wants to be a billionaire.
Yes.
And then it's like, right, so if I don't start up my own little thing, then I'm never going to make it. Whereas it doesn't necessarily have to be that way, especially with property anyway, in my opinion. No. And I think the experience is actually really, really important and really valuable, and it's a marathon, not a sprint, and all those sorts of things come to mind.
100%.
This episode is sponsored by the PLMD Group. PLMD Group is made up of the PLMD Development, PLMD Estate Management, and PLMD Capital, providing expertise in real estate development combined with asset management. With more than 70 build-to-rent properties and £20 million of assets under management, PLMD's extensive knowledge of local planning policies have resulted in a strong track record, turning liabilities into valuable assets. The group delivers value through a fusion of experience, innovative design, imagination, hands-on management, and sustainable resources. To find out more about PLMD and the services they offer, head to plmdgroup.co.uk. So, you touched upon it. Why did you want to get in the commercial side? Why not like I did? You know, I saw houses everywhere. I went down the residential route. And I think that's what most people do. What was it about the fascination about commercial land and commercial office space, retail, etc.?
I think once I started the deal sourcing business, I was trying to get married at the time, so I needed money. And I started working at Domino's whilst doing my rent job. So I was doing that, and I did that for a few months prior to the wedding. And I started the deal sourcing business at the same time prior to the wedding. I made slightly more money doing deal sourcing than Domino's. And Domino's, I thought I was getting a lot of money in terms of I'll get nice tips. I was working in Crystal Palace, so it's quite an affluent
free
area.
Food?
Free food. I was feeding everyone. I was going to my mother-in-law's, going, here's some pizza.
Domino's is good pizza as well.
Yeah, so I was getting fed, and so
Yeah.
I was doing that. Plus, I was doing the deal sourcing. Plus, I was working for Amazon as well, doing deliveries.
Right.
Just trying to
make the extra buck.
Yeah, just trying to hustle as much as possible. But the deal sourcing was a passion where I was like, I like this.
It's a career.
Yeah.
You feel like it was a career?
Yeah, and I felt like, okay, what is the ultimate type of deal sourcing? I looked it up, and when I found out people are selling land, and I was like, wow, land, okay. How much are they selling land for? And there was a lady that I met who broke it down to me, and she said, oh, look, I've got this plot of land, £3 million. We're charging a 2% fee. You'll get a split of that. I started plugging in the numbers, and I went, whoa. Let's do this one. But then I was like, okay, how do I do it? And then I started doing more research, and I realized there's a surveying route. So I started looking up how to be a surveyor and doing my APC and doing a RICS accredited degree. And then I thought, oh, that's a bit long because I'll be backtracking. Because at the time, a lot of those graduate courses would provide you around 25K a year. And I was earning more than that doing what I was doing.
So you have to pay 25K to get this accreditation?
No. So once you've got
it.
Once I've spent 2 years getting the degree.
That's what you'll earn.
Yeah. And I actually find a job, I'll be paid 25K a year for the next couple of years.
Was there any fees? How much did you have to pay to be on that course?
No, 25K a year I'll be paid if I got a job as a surveyor.
Yeah, but how much would the
course
cost? Like sometimes
it was 5 to 6K for the.
Because I always look at the return on investment. So if you're going to spend 5K and then you're going to get 25 back, you get your money back in 5 years. But that's gross. That's before tax. So it's going to take you a lot longer potentially to get your money back.
But then
you might make some commissions.
Yeah, how I saw it was, okay, so I'll spend the next 2 years doing a master's, right? So I'll spend 2 years doing a master's that I'll pay around 5K for. Then after the 2 years, I would have to try and find a job, which when I looked up the jobs, I'll be paid 25K a year to do those jobs. And then it will take me 2 years to qualify to be a surveyor.
2 more years on top.
2 more years on top. So I said, okay, so I'd have to do that, and then that. And then after that, the salary would be around 35 to 40K at the time. It's probably different now. But I spent 4 to 5 years getting there. Is there a quicker way? And then I started doing my research. And
so how does so with Whozoo, you don't necessarily need a RICS qualification.
No.
So why is it some of them demand it and some of them don't?
So the type of jobs I was looking for were with the big corporates. Right. So the big corporates have a lot of graduate schemes. Some of them have what they call non-cognate schemes, which means you have a degree, but it's not property related. They're happy to take you on, but I couldn't get in, so I didn't interview, but I applied for those jobs, and then I just didn't get a job. So with Whozoo, what we're trying to do is break the barrier down where we're not a big corporate. What we're trying to provide is an opportunity where there is no barrier to entry. You are provided training on how to do it, and we see it as commercial estate agency. So I know how a lot of people like to say, oh, I'm a consultant, and it sounds a little bit more nice, and the types of properties you're dealing with and the types of people you deal with, they're multimillionaires usually, so you want to sound good, but you're a commercial estate agent technically, because all you're doing is selling commercial property or land, which is what an estate agent does, but for houses and flats.
Yeah, you're just brokering the deal. You're the middle person. You're marketing them. You're matching the two together. You're negotiating the sale. The same as what a estate agent does. It's just whether it's a residential or a commercial asset. That's the only.
Same thing, but it's a little bit more complicated, as we both know.
There's a few more nuances, there's a few more technical bits and bobs that you need to know about.
Exactly. So that's how we see it basically, and therefore we think we can train anyone to do it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And my next question is, commercial sales or lettings? Do you have a preference? Do you do more of one or the other?
Definitely more sales, because obviously there's more money in it. A lot of people come into the business and say, I'm not doing lettings, which is fair enough. How I see lettings, especially with commercial agency, it's a little bit longer than estate agency for obvious reasons, because you're dealing with businesses and there's a lot more involved. But my plan is to systemize it internally. So within my business, I'm systemizing the lettings side of things. Properly.
Okay. So because it's an important. I mean, it's almost evergreen. Like you always have people that need to rent stuff,
yes.
and it's like why not if you can get your head around how it works.
It's straightforward.
Yeah.
So I've done a few lets, but yeah, my plan over the next few months is systemize it. So I've employed someone now who's under my books that I pay for, who's going to be helping me, an assistant basically with all of that sort of stuff, as well as my social medias, etc.
One thing I get surprised about sometimes when I'm speaking to people, especially, I mean, it's usually people a bit earlier in their like career or game and journey of property investment, is their lack of appreciation or understanding of yield.
Okay.
Personally, I mean, I find I use it all the time as a general gauge of whether I'm in the right place or not in terms of values and this sort of thing. How do you kind of refer to yield? Do you find that agents, sellers, vendors, or buyers focus on that a lot, or am I kind of like somewhat unique?
Yield is definitely used a lot within commercial agency. I'd say, especially on dry investments. When I say dry, there's no value add opportunity. It is just what it is in terms of there is income and there is a price that you need to pay for this property.
There's no angle or anything.
There's no angle. This is it. So with those sort of properties, a lot of people will focus on the yield because they're focusing on what their return on investment is. Some people, I've heard you refer to return on cash before, which I personally think is a very good way of looking at it. But I think because yield is a universal way of looking at things, people tend to refer back to it on a regular basis.
Yeah, I mean, I just find that when you're looking at something, you can automatically ascertain its value from a number of different angles.
Definitely.
On its gross yield, because then return on cash depends on your leverage, depends on what cost of leverage that you've got. So it's kind of, and everybody's slightly different. So the yield is something that I think is incredibly important. Now, the typical types of clients that you're dealing with. So you mentioned kind of high net worth or multimillionaires, investors, developers. In terms of the size and stature, though, of the Whozoo clientele, are they small independents or SMEs? Do you get any corporates? Is it more of one or the other, or is it like completely flat across the board?
I would say 80% of the people that we use, the people that are consumers or customers that come our way are independents, and then you might get a few big corporates. I think the idea of setting up Whozoo was to focus on the SMEs, because I think we believe it's a neglected part of the market. If you look at residential estate agency, that side of the market is really pushed, and the luxury market is fairly neglected. There's only a select few that you can think of, and then there's probably independents. So, but there are more smaller assets around. So you could be in London and then there's a row of shops, but if you were to pick up the phone and think of a commercial agency, a lot of people would be like, ooh, who can I think of? And then there's like 5 you can think of, or tops, and that's you probably being in the market. But in terms of a estate agency, the list is endless, and they usually on a high street right next to each other, but you will struggle to find a commercial agent. And so our focus is primarily the smaller assets, and therefore we will get a lot of the independents who would be very, very interested in what we have to offer.
And how do you go about building your buyer database? Like, is that do you do networking events? Do you I don't know, find them on Facebook groups? Like, how do you go about building that client base? Because I mean, as a residential agent, we used to go on Rightmove. You put the property on there, and then everybody calls in.
Yeah, I think we've got a robust database already in place, which we've built over years. I think when you start doing deals, that creates its own buzz in itself. So I've done quite a few deals now. So from that, it creates its own buzz where people want to join your mailing list. But outside of that, I spend a lot of time meeting people, because it's all well and good having them on your database. You need to know people and know what their requirements are. Know people that have alternative requirements, because not every site fits all, and therefore you need someone with a different angle or alternative way of looking at it. So I spend a lot of time speaking to people, getting myself out there, and I'm actively trying to push a little bit more social media, because I think that's another tool that we need to use. I use LinkedIn quite a bit, but I want to start moving on to like the Instagrams, etc.
Good. And in terms of the relationship that you have with these buyers, like, there's a lot of people that want to off-market deal. They want to get in the little black book of the agent. In terms of an ideal client that you work with, a buyer or investor or developer, how would they come up and say, "Hi Nathan, here's my bank statement," or is it?
I've had every type. I've had every single type.
Because or is it the one that's kind of calling you every 5 minutes, going, "Have they accepted my offer yet? Have they, or will they take a really think about some of the ideal clients that you really enjoy working with. What's their demeanor? How do they go about their business? How would you recommend other people kind of approach agents? And because I think sometimes the agent whisperer thing is really like the holy grail for a lot of people. It's like, how can they get that agent on side? How does that work? How would you go about it? How would you recommend?
People do it in different ways. I've had all kinds of ways, in the sense of someone will buy me lunch, but it's a really nice lunch, and I've offered to pay, but they're like, no, this is on me. I want to show you that I'm serious. And then they follow up, and then they're calling me or messaging me every other day, saying, you got anything new? You got anything new? Let me look at it. The people that can respond quickly is key, because then you can do an off-market deal. You can't do an off-market deal if the person's slow. If you're slow, please don't call me about something off-market. There's no point. Because with an off-market deal, you need to be able to perform very quickly, and be reliable. Because to be in what you call black book, if I was to call you and present an opportunity to you, and then it takes you 4 days for you to get back to me, a lot can happen on an off-market deal within 4 days. I would say as well, if you can't perform within a very short period of time, and everyone has different opinions on short periods, but I've done transactions within 2 working days before Christmas. So if they can do it 2 working days, you can do it. And that's with not necessarily having searches in place and things like that. So everyone says they can perform quickly, and I've had really big known people come to me and say, "Oh, yeah, perform quickly, blah blah blah." Then when you get in the nitty gritty, they're not performing quickly. They say, "Oh, it's as quickly as the lawyers." That is a alarm bell to me, because what do you mean as quickly as a lawyer? Get a good lawyer then. Like, you can pay for a good lawyer, pay the extra for the good lawyer. So if you're really about off-market deals, you need to be able to perform within a matter of, I would say, 2 weeks in terms of buying something, transacting. You need to have cash ready or have finance in place that can happen within 2 weeks. And happy to take on risk, know exactly what you're looking for, and happy to take on that risk, and also being willing to respond very, very quickly. Some people have a lot of events as well. That's another alternative way, where they have really good events where you're like, I've had a great time here. I feel like I should give them something, you know? I've been to an event where the person just had quite a lot of Dom Perignon, or, you know, and you're like, I feel like I need to give them something.
Yeah, let me throw you a bone here.
Yeah. Let me give them something off market. So sometimes those sort of things help, but I'm not, like, I can't be bought personally. So I give everyone a chance. But if you can't perform quickly, then just don't talk about off-market deals. Just focus on the ones that are on the market, or getting a little bit of an early on something that's on the market. But you've got to be able to respond quickly and perform quickly. Otherwise, just don't talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I think getting someone's attention with either a coffee or a lunch or an event or something that's a nice gesture is helpful to get on people's radar.
It gets you on the radar. That's all it does. Then.
Yeah, but then if you can't perform when the opportunity is given to you, then it kind of like it's all for nothing almost.
Yeah.
So the most important thing is to be able to prove that you do what you say you're going to do, and you're able to execute at speed.
Yeah, and from my perspective, there's certain clients that get all my sites first at the moment, and
that's purely because they're reliable. You've got a seller that's saying, I need this, and you're like, well, I know if you need that, I can go to this person, that he's going to give you that, and then it's a happy transaction, right?
I know I can get an offer within a matter of weeks. No, a matter of hours, sorry. In a matter of hours, I can get
it in weeks.
And complete it in weeks. So then you're like, from an agent, you got to think about what the agent's thinking. The agent's thinking, how can I get my money as quickly as possible?
Of course.
If it's an off-market transaction, then you want to get your money as quickly as possible, because if you go to market, there are huge benefits to going to the market. First of all, your branding, you're involved in a site that looks a certain way as well, so it can attract a new site because you don't get to market it. When you're marketing yourself, it's free advertisement in a sense of you get to broadcast, oh, look what another thing I've got. Look at the other thing that I've got now. So, but from my perspective, I'm very, very open and want to make it clear to anyone. So if anyone wants to be top of my list, you can go top of my list and I will send you something tomorrow. No problem. I've got off-market deals, but it's a matter of performance.
Why do sellers want to sell stuff off-market?
Everything is circumstantial. Like, going back to what we were talking about before about delayed completions or option agreements or subject to planning or off-market, all of those things are very circumstantial. So I can't put a specific thing on it. You just got to understand the vendor's circumstance. And that's why when I get off-market deals, pretty much all the people that are familiar with off-market deals go, what's the story? Why? Why is it like this? Why is it cheap? Why is it off-market? What's the situation?
Yeah.
So what's the off-market deal I've done recently? Like, for example, I've got an off-market deal where it's financial. So we've got interest rates. The base rate went up again. Interest rates are going up. That means mortgage payments are going up if you're on a variable rate. And therefore, you need to sell quicker because they might not be able to afford it and it's a bit crippling.
They're getting squeezed.
Yeah. So if someone's getting squeezed, then they'll be like, look.
They need that urgency. They need that speed. And they're like... But then wouldn't you think like, okay, oh, wait, you don't even have time to market and take photos and put it on the website. By the time you're that, they've already got the money in the bank.
Exactly. And the thing is, with those sort of situations, you've got to be open to working off little information from me to start off with, because I will get an address. Yeah, you got to find out the rest, kind of thing. I will help you, but it's you got to start, and then I'm gonna help. Like, we're working together. When it's off market, we're working together. Usually, I get a little bit more than an address, but
it's kind of like a minimum amount of information, which kind of tends to mean to me that those buyers know that area. They've probably bought something on the same street not too long ago. Their solicitors have transacted a bunch of stuff. They've got searches from other stuff that they can kind of rely on.
Exactly.
So these are active people. It's not like some of this stuff doesn't fall in your lap accidentally or by calling up one agent saying, "Can you put me on your special list, please?" It's just by being uber active that you suddenly are able to move at speed. You're suddenly able to have those conversations on a level which opens up those doors of opportunity.
100%, and that's why it goes down to building a relationship with someone, because you understand their requirements and you understand what they've bought, what they haven't, what they've recently had fallen through and stuff like that. So you know what they're looking for. But again, it goes back to it's all circumstantial. I have done off-market deals that have taken a long time, like a matter of months, like 2 to 3 months. And the only reason we've done it off-market is because technically they paid market value, and the vendor knew what price they wanted. So we've already done a valuation. We're saying, look, this is probably where you'll see it. And then we've got someone who's already given you an offer that's there and thereabouts, and that's an off-market deal. But if I went to market, maybe I would have got more. I don't know until you go to market. You never know. But it looks good. It is a great site. So they bought it off market, you know.
What's the what would you choose? More deals, more properties to sell and fewer buyers, or more buyers and fewer deals? What kind of market do you prefer?
Deals. The buyers will always come.
So you need more deals than you need more, like loads of choice of opportunities and have a few buyers. That becomes a buyer's market effectively.
Well, it depends on how we're looking. If we're looking at as the market as a whole, that's very different to us as a business. Because us as a business, if we had only 2 buyers on our books, but we had 20 deals, that 2 buyers could turn into 20,000 buyers very, very quickly if you've got 20 very, very good deals. But as a market as a whole, that's very, very different because.
So you're saying like if you've got 20 deals on that attracts a whole database of different types of buyers because they're all trying to buy different things, and that builds up your hopefully. So it's kind of, you always want a bit of a good balance on both sides. Otherwise, it's kind of. But you'd still have more.
I would say if you've got a good deal, you'll sell it. Yeah. If it's a really good deal.
A well-priced property, well-priced land. Find a buyer.
If I called you about something well priced, I've done it before. Yeah, I've called you and you're like, "Oh yeah, I'm not in the market." Blah blah. I've warmed you up a bit. I'm like, "Oh, what's going on, Saam? You right?" And we're catching up, and then before you know, I'm like, "Oh, I've got this thing." You're like, "Well, maybe let me just have a look at it at least," you know. So it's one of those where, if you've got a good deal, people will want to look at it. Even if they haven't got the money, they'll find the money, you know?
You know, that's the interesting thing about the difference between, for me anyway, the commercial investment side and development as opposed to residential sales. Residential sales are directly connected to how well the economy is doing. The economy is doing great, everyone wants to buy. If the economy is not doing great, people just literally don't have the money, and it's quite quiet and dead, and you don't make as much money. Whereas in investment development, it's evergreen, because like these guys are making money, guys and girls. These people are making money throughout every single year, throughout every single cycle, and they need to be busy. This is how they make their bread and butter. So, I really like that side of thing. I wish I'd done more commercial earlier on, but I went down the residential route. Fair. What, in your opinion, attributes do you need to be a great broker, a great agent?
The first thing is you got to be quite personable. I think being a broker, it's not about the actual. Well, in commercial brokering, it's not usually about the property. The property is the property. It's not moving. It's staying where it is. It is what it is. It's about the people a lot of the time. A lot of deals fall through because of the people. Sometimes it's about the property, like what we discussed earlier at the back. Let's not talk about it. Where deals will fall through and it's just the land is riddled with issues. Okay, that's different. But it's usually about the people. And so if you're good with people and understand different types of people and open to different cultures and different ways of thinking, then you will be able to broker a lot of deals. So from my perspective, I like to listen. I listen to people and try and understand them, try and build relationships. They'll see that I'm actually genuinely trying to build a relationship and trying to help, and therefore I'm able to do deals that way. So I think that's a start. And also not just being a messenger, just passing messages across. Oh, they want this. Oh, they want that. When you do that, that's how deals fall through. You've got to manage the information and deliver it in the right way and tailor it towards who you're delivering the information to. So it's all about being personable, understanding people, and being able to deliver information appropriately.
I think it's well said, actually. I think I completely agree with all of that. I think you are absolutely right, is that, especially because you're a middle person, you don't actually have anything other than other people's money and other people's properties, and you're trying to match the two together. And if people don't enjoy working with you, then you just become a little bit of a third wheel. Whereas if people enjoy picking up the phone to you and they enjoy having those conversations, and you're knowledgeable, and you kind of help them out with a bit of information here and there, you actually add a lot of value to the whole process.
Yeah, and there's other things, obviously, like being organized and following up and the basics, but yeah, that you can learn that anywhere. But with commercial agency, being technical as well, understanding the technical side of things and educating people, but it always boils down to the people and how you deliver information.
Properly people.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that'll help people like my buddy that I've been meeting at this event last couple of times at Tom. In terms of one of the things I was always taught by he's now my business partner, but never have preconceived ideas. So I asked this guy, Tom, poor Tom, he's going to be mentioned. I'll get him on one day. Yeah. But I asked him about a case study. I said, right, you're a sourcing agent, and you're a property sourcer, and you've gone around this event, and everybody said, you know what, we want 10% returns and this, that, and the other. And there's a guy that you meet, tomorrow, and he's got a nice mixed-use freehold building, and it's at 6% yield. Would you? And he says, find me a buyer for market it for me. Would you say, well, sorry, I haven't got any buyers for you because everybody I'm talking to has got 10% yield. It needs that. Or would you say, yeah, give me that listing, let me go and see if I can find somebody for you? That preconceived idea, when I was an estate agent, I would be like, no one's going to buy that, or no one's going to... But actually, you don't know, because there might be some foreign national buyer who just wants to buy something in London, and actually this 6% yield suits him down to a T for X, Y, and Z reason. It's also because, his son's going to university in around the corner, and there's a flat upstairs, and hey presto, Bob's your uncle. It's perfect for them.
Yeah.
Whereas that preconceived idea can sometimes...
cause an issue.
Be restrictive, So do you try, do you keep an open mind when you go to meet vendors, and what if their expectations, you find them a little bit like everybody wants £1 million for their land, that sort of thing?
A lot of people round up. They like to round up. I would say, from my perspective, what I do is I'm always open, and I'm always listening, as I said before, and it depends on the situation and the asset. So if you've got an asset in, let's say you've got a dry investment where it's just 100K income, and the vendor wants to sell it for 2 million, which is a 5% yield, but it's in the outskirts of Kent, right? You're gonna go, what? Who's gonna buy that? In my opinion, I would try and educate the vendors on that one. What I look at is, as an agent, you have to look broader than what the asset. You've got to think about, okay, if I was to market this, who would this attract? What kind of person would be interested in this? Would there be a local investor who would just buy it? Because that, even though it's in the outskirts of Kent, it's an affluent area within Kent where there's a lot of affluent people who would maybe just park some cash in something like this. So also branding, does this help our brand or does this damage our brand where we're marketing something that's too expensive? If you've got the same asset and you put it in Putney, you might go, definitely need to take that on because There's other comparables that are
Yeah.
similar. It might be at 5.5% yields, or the owner's situation. He's saying he wants 2 million, but he's desperate, or he has a personal circumstance. I've taken on things where I thought I wasn't going to sell it at the price. A prime example was I had a office building in Red Hill. The owner told me he wanted 900,000. That was at a 6% yield based on the income. In Red Hill, it's not like, that's outskirts of London. It's not really attractive to a lot of people. But what I realized was we had a lot of buyers. We had a bidding war, and we got a little bit above. Oh yeah, you.
Do your job well. You do your job well.
But yeah, you know what happened with that one. Yeah. So we got a little bit above, and I didn't expect it. And you remember, like, I did not expect that to happen, and that was out of my control.
Yeah. Actually, I actually follow the guys that are doing that, and they've gone for a different scheme on it. I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
I love that. I actually just love that building. I think I got more.
You loved it.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I went and saw it a few
I'm
times.
so sorry.
But it's all good. Move on to the next one.
You forgot. Sorry.
I mean, look, we're actually fast running out of time.
Yeah.
There's so much more that we haven't touched upon, which is like option agreements and subject to planning and delayed completions. And what does Whozoo mean?
What does Whozoo mean? It's meant to, so Tom came up with the idea, it's meant to be a play on words, which means who's who in the property market. And the idea behind it is who's who, and what one of our focuses is going to be is partnerships, partnering with people like yourself, like finance brokers, architects, planning consultants, and creating building a network of independent businesses who operate whereby they take a share from referrals, etc. So that's the idea behind it, and that's how the plan is to become national very, very quickly, because you're able to expand quickly and build partnerships with the right people.
And you're doing quite well at that already. You're kind of going out into different markets at quite a rapid rate.
Yep. I know Tom went down to Cornwall recently.
Wow. Opposite end of the country.
Yeah. Nottingham. I've got an instruction in Nottingham, and we've got people up there now as well, looking to join and things like that. So it's quite straightforward to go national with this kind of model.
Yeah, I think you're going to do amazingly well. I actually have a personal question that I'd like to ask you, in terms of kind of my own curiosity, in terms of yields and generally what's happening with finance, because obviously the interest rates are going up, and therefore that usually has an effect on yields. Commercial, mixed-use, freehold assets in and around London, or let's say home counties, a little bit further afield. What yield are they now trading at? Because I don't know, they were getting like 6%.
Easily, yeah.
But am I right in thinking that that's higher now?
It's area dependent. Somewhere like Putney or Zone 2 areas or Zone 1 areas will attract a different yield to a Zone 6/outside of London sort of area. So it will be very, very area dependent, depends on demand. If you've got something in a specific location where there's a lot of investors, then there's going to be a competitive bid situation to drive the price down. And they'll be looking at it as a trophy asset and waiting for the situation to die down. So I would say it's area dependent, but I would say in certain locations, they're still attracting, people are still marketing at lower yields. But the only thing I can go off is valuations. So I've had down valuations come through. A lot of them happened in December, unfortunately.
What happened, like in the current market? Does companies scup with the deal? Do the investors come up with more money because they won't get the leverage where they wanted it? Or like a mix of everything?
I've had all types. I had one in Essex, which was a commercial investment with a commercial ground floor with 2-3 flats above. That one was a dry investment, no real value add. It got down valued. We were selling at a 7% yield, and it still got down valued. So from there,
What yield did it end up falling to?
around 8%. Yeah. So what happened was, um,
Interesting.
what was I think the gap was circa 50K. So what happened was the purchaser had to just dip into their own pocket a little bit,
Yeah.
and then the vendor had to take a chip.
Okay, so you met in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that I mean,
That happens.
good broker can manage that kind of thing.
Exactly. yeah, that's the idea. But in other instances, deals falling through. Where, for example, I had a commercial building, which was just purely commercial, had development potential as well. We were selling in it, but the guy was buying for his pension fund, so he hasn't got control.
Yeah.
They did a valuation. The valuation was at 1 million. The valuation was fine. So he's buying it for 1.1 million. The valuation was 1.1 million. They said, yeah, that's great. We want 10% off, just immediately. Whatever the valuation is, we want 10% off, because that was post mini budget, like just afterwards. I think it was like the day or two after. So they were just like, whatever the valuation is, we want 10% off. So the deal couldn't happen purely because of that, basically. So it depends on what the situation, who's involved and stuff like that. So other times you can negotiate, sometimes it'll fall through, and sometimes it's falling through for matters out of your control, because the pension fund's not going to move, and then the vendors won't move at the time, and then Bob's your uncle. So
Are you with high inflation just gone up, interest rates have got, Bank of England just gone up again, with post mini budget mayhem? Are you finding that there's blood on the streets, and there's
Blood on the streets.
like there's opportunities? I've been telling people that this is possibly the best time since 2008 to be a little bit cheeky, and look for distress, basically. Is that what you're seeing? Is that fair to say?
I think if someone needs to sell, what they're doing is not coming across desperate deliberately, because everyone knows that if you
show a bit of a weakness,
once people smell blood, they will take advantage, which is very unfortunate. So what I would say is the impact, I don't see it yet, in a sense of there's still more to come. So the base rate just went up. So if someone's on a variable rate and let's say you've got a loan of £1 million, that is not, you've gone up by a couple £100. That's a few £1,000s potentially. So it depends on certain assets. People can't hold on for too much longer if you're overexposed. Imagine you've got a portfolio and then everything's going up. You will be stuck eventually because you can't foot the bill.
Yeah.
Some people are in positions where you could be renting it for 50K per annum, but your rate at the moment, you're paying 70K per annum. So you're forfeiting 20K, and some people, they cannot afford that 20K a year. So there will come a point where they go, I can't afford to survive this anymore, and it's not getting better, and therefore I need to sell this asset. So that I don't see has happened yet, but I think it's coming, and it's going to be unfortunate for a lot of people. So I think personally, people need to be willing to accept less and just come out clean, basically, before there's more damage, and then you're put in a situation you don't want to be in, basically.
Yes, indeed. Well said. Like I said, there's actually a lot more that we could probably go into, but I think all that does is tee up another time that we can do this.
Yeah, of course.
As Whozoo expands and grows, and you're going to have lots more tales of a commercial agent in the marketplace. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
If people wanted to reach out to you, people wanted to get their properties valued, or kind of understand where they can find some quality opportunities in the commercial retail land space, how should people find you?
Yeah, so look, if you want to have an informal chat about any commercial building or plot of land or anything to do with commercial, just get in touch. Nathan King at whozoo.co.uk. Whozoo's WHO and then Zoo, ZOO.co.uk. And then I'm on Instagram as well, and TikTok now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Now you got a kid. You got to get down with the kids.
It's more to provide more social content on what I'm doing. to give a bit more insight, because a lot of people are like, commercial agent, what is that? So
The next breed of agent.
yeah.
TikTok generation.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to try and do a few more videos just to show people what's going on. So that's Nath Does Property. So just follow me on that, and that's it, pretty much.
Happy days. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.